Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all, first and foremost, for coming tonight. This is the regular meeting of City Council, December 4th, 2017. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Anderson. Here. Bullock.
Here.
Litton.
Here.
Marks. Here. Nowlin.
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
O'Malley. Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held November 20th, 2017.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to dispose without a reading? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 1, Committee of the Whole report regarding Committee of the Whole meetings of November 27th and December 4th, 2017.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole met on November 27th, last Monday. There were basically two portions of the meeting. The first portion dealt with several appointments to vacant positions on city boards and commissions. After discussion and consideration, Council moved to appoint Robert Donaldson to a 5-year term on ABR and BBS, that's Architecture Board of Review and Board of Building Standards. Similarly, David Manet was recommended for appointment to a 2-year term, also with ABR and BBS. The reason for the 2-year term being that he's being appointed to fill a vacancy midterm by someone who moved out of the city. Finally, Jason Shackner was recommended for appointment to LHAB, the Lakewood Heritage Advisory Board, for a full term. Next, we heard from Carnegie Development Corporation. They had a presentation led by Dr. Rustum Corey III, and George Papandreas, as well as their CFO, Steve Edelman, was here as well. In that presentation, Council had the chance to interact and dialogue with Carnegie regarding a number of topics related to the project, including honoring the history of the site, for example, the inclusion of the Curtis Block building into that plan, incorporating transportation and sustainability elements, as well as in general terms the types of retail and housing units that would likely be available on the site. Following that discussion, we did adjourn and then reconvened here this evening, immediately prior to this meeting, for a discussion and introduction with Tracy Nichols, with whom council will be working going forward regarding the project. Tracy is with Project Management Consultants and lends a great deal of expertise into the multifaceted challenges of urban development, and we look forward to working with her going forward. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 2, Resolution 895517, a resolution appointing David Manet to the vacancy on the Board of Building Standards and Building Appeals and Architectural Board of Review for the balance of the term beginning January 1, 2015 and ending December 31st, 2019.
Thank you. This is a substitute version on account of the fact that this version has the name of Mr. Manet in it, and I would therefore move to substitute.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to substitute. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Litton. Marks. Yes. Nowlin.
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes,
O'Malley.
and that motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made to adopt and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bullock. Yes. Litton. Marks. Yes. Nowlin.
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes,
O'Malley.
Yes.
that motion passes.
Item 3, Resolution 896517, a resolution appointing Robert Donaldson to the Board of Building Standards and Building Appeals and Architectural Board of Review for a 5-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Again, this is for a full term, and the need for the substitute is just the inclusion of Mr. Donaldson's name in the resolution. A move to substitute.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bullock. Litton. Marks. Nowlin.
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
That motion passes. A move to adopt.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson. Bullock. Litton. Marks. Nowlin.
Yes.
O'Leary.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Item 4, Resolution 896617, a resolution appointing Jason Schachter to the Lakewood Heritage Advisory Board for the balance of a 4-year term beginning January 1, 2015, and ending December 31st, 2018.
Thank you. And that does remind me that I think I erroneously stated in my report that Mr. Schachner's term was a full term, and I see now that it is for the balance of a term. Move to substitute.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson. Bullock. Litton. Marks. Nowlin. O'Leary.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson. Bullock. Litton. Marks. Nowlin. O'Leary.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Item 5, Finance Committee report regarding December 4th, 2017 Finance Committee.
Thank you. Finance Chair Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, the Finance Committee met and commenced its series of 2018 budget hearings. We had a good discussion with all members of council present and a fair number of members of the administration. We heard on 3 topics. First was a Clean Fuels Ohio report on Lakewood vehicle fleet alternatives analysis and the results of a study that was conducted in 2017, budgeted by council about a year ago, and heard some very interesting recommendations about what kinds of vehicle technologies and what kinds of clean fuels could be economically used by the city of Lakewood. Second, we reviewed our budget ordinances. I think it's 19 in total, a collection of many ordinances that wrap up the 2017 budget year and embark the city upon its 2018 budget year. And Director Pay and the administration provided a good overview. Council members asked mechanical questions to deepen our understanding of the instruments by which we adopt a budget and conduct policy, which is the real point, is to deliver services for the city of Lakewood. And then we began but didn't conclude our 2018 budget overview to get a sense of the scale, the scope, and the trajectory of the proposed budget. I'll repeat here some of the highlights that the mayor mentioned, and that is fundamentally the most important thing about this proposed budget that council, by the way, hopes to adopt 2 weeks from tonight and pursue an aggressive schedule of hearings. Those fundamentals are it would spend less than we take in. It forecasts very conservatively, anticipating zero growth. We actually hope we'll get better than zero growth, but by forecasting and living within that conservative forecast, the budget process is prepared for all manner of trouble. And maintains a frozen head count of full-time employees at 410 people. Those are some of the key dimensions of the budget that account for about 80% of the total costs that are in our annual budget. We will continue our discussion a week from tonight, a long session where we'll hear from directors and also from Judge Carroll. And then on Saturday the 16th, please join us, anyone, members of the public, at 8 a.m. We'll talk in depth about water and sewer rates and capital planning. And then finally, we intend and hope to conclude on the 18th 2 weeks from tonight. That I'll receive and I'll move to file that oral report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and file that report. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 6, did you do the whole thing? Ordinance 40.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's occurring to me just now that these next 18 ordinances, 18 items, correspond to our budget ordinances. For that reason, I would ask that, I move rather that council suspend the rules to allow for a reading of those items consecutively to avoid having to read them all individually and then move individually to defer all of them. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to suspend for the purpose of reading items 6 through 26? I'm sorry, 24 together. Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson? Yes. Bullock? Yes. Litton? Yes. Marks? Yes. Nowlin?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Item 6, Ordinance 4017, an ordinance to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Lakewood for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017. Item 7, Ordinance 4117, an ordinance authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds. Item 8, Ordinance 4316C, an ordinance amending 4316B, adopted October 16, 2017, authorizing the purchase of repair, maintenance, and operating supplies, services, and equipment as authorized by the 2017 appropriation ordinance. Item 9, Ordinance 4217, an ordinance to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. Item 10, Ordinance 4317, an ordinance to enter into contracts for professional services and to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the purchase of repair, maintenance, and operating supplies, services, and equipment as authorized by the 2018 appropriation ordinance. Item 11, Ordinance 4417, an ordinance to enter into service contracts in accordance with the Administrative Code for the Department of Planning and Development. Item 12, Ordinance 4517, an ordinance to enter into contracts for memberships. Item 13, Ordinance 4617, an ordinance for the purpose of adjusting sewer rates. Item 14, Ordinance 4717, an ordinance for the purpose of adjusting water rates. Item 15, Ordinance 4817, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for street infrastructure improvements. Item 16, Ordinance 4917, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for the wastewater system and treatment improvement program. Item 17, Ordinance 5017, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for the water system replacement program. Item 18, Ordinance 5117, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for Community Development Block Grant Fund infrastructure improvements. Item 19, Ordinance 5217, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for the purchase of vehicles, machinery, and equipment. Item 20, Ordinance 5717, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for buildings and facilities improvements. Item 21, Ordinance 5317, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for traffic signs and signals. Item 22, Ordinance 5417, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder in accordance with the Administrative Code for parks and pools improvements. Item 23, Ordinance 5517, an ordinance to advertise for bid and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for sidewalk improvement program. Item 24, Ordinance 5617, an ordinance to provide for creating positions and rates of pay for full-time and certain part-time annual salaried employees and hourly rate employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement in the several departments, divisions, and offices of the city, including the Chief of Fire, Chief of Police, and Civil Service Commissioners.
Thank you for that. I would now move to collectively defer those items just read, being items number 6 through 24. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer those named items? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Anderson, Bullock, Litton, Marks, Nowlin, O'Leary,
Yes.
O'Malley.
Thank you. That disposes of our budget ordinances for this evening and brings us to item 25.
Item 25, Ordinance 3817, an ordinance to take effect at the earliest period allowed by law, enacting Chapter 123, Departments and Directors established of the codified ordinances in order to codify the administrative departments and their directors' responsibilities within the city.
Thank you. This was referred to Rules and Ordinances Committee on our meeting on the 20th, and I would move to defer, as tonight is the second reading of the required 3 readings. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 26, Ordinance 3917, an ordinance to take effect at the earliest period allowed by law, amending various sections within the codified ordinances of the city in order to update the code to reflect the adoption of the third amended charter.
Move to defer. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer this item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 27, communication from Mayor Summers, Council President O'Leary, and Planning Director Sylvester regarding entering into exclusive negotiations with Carnegie Development Corporation.
Thank you. I'll defer to you two gentlemen as to who wants to either provide a synopsis or read the communication for us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear members of council, as a follow-up to the letter introduced at the October 2nd City Council meeting, please find attached a resolution to authorize the city to negotiate a non-binding term sheet with Carnegie Development Corporation concerning the development of the nearly 6-acre former hospital site in the heart of Lakewood. This term sheet would serve as a basis for a development agreement for the city-owned site. Since October 2nd, City Council and city staff have utilized Committee of the Whole meetings to review and discuss the 8-month-long selection process that identified Carnegie Development Corporation as the best and most qualified developer to take on the development. Council and city staff utilized the meetings to review Round 1 and Round 2 of the selection process, in addition to structuring one meeting as an open house, which gave members of the public an opportunity to discuss the project in detail. In addition, a meeting to hear directly from leadership team at Carnegie about its vision for the project happened last Monday. The next step in the process is to enter exclusive negotiations with Carnegie, which will be in the form of a term sheet. We look forward to working together on this next step of the process. Mr. President, we are looking for your support and vote on this item tonight. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 28, Resolution 896717, a resolution to take effect immediately provided it receives the affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of the members of council or otherwise to take effect at the earliest period allowed by law, authorizing the mayor to negotiate a non-binding term sheet with Carnegie Development Corporation as the basis for a development agreement for the city-owned former Lakewood Hospital site.
Thank you. I'm going to move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? And I'll note that joining us this evening are Mr. Papandreas as well as Mr. Corey from Carnegie Development, and I'll invite them up to say a few words if they wish at the conclusion of this vote with respect to the resolution. But in the meantime, discussion from council. Yes, Councilman O'Malley.
Just a legal question for Director Butler. Section 1 of the resolution specifically states that we're authorizing the mayor. Does that grant authority to his designee if it's not him directly, or? Unless he is planning to personally.
Yes, Law Director Butler.
Thank
please.
you. Certainly, those of us who would be working on behalf of the administration to negotiate the term sheet would be the mayor's designees. Ultimately, a term sheet would be likely signed by the mayor, which is why Section 1 refers to the mayor.
Okay.
But any of the mayor's law director, outside counsel, your outside counsel, the city's outside counsel, that is, the the planning development director, all would have the authority to act under this particular section.
And I still have a number of questions and concerns about this project and where we're headed, but am comfortable supporting this resolution tonight to start this part of the process.
Thanks. And I would note for myself that I do think I also share confidence that this is the right step for us to take tonight. I think that having been involved in not only the citizen panel that reviewed this, but also council's robust conversations internally and with the community input as well, this does seem like the clear right way forward for Lakewood, particularly in contrast to other development alternatives that were presented that required significantly greater public subsidy to make them a reality, and for that reason also the deliverability of those projects I think is questionable. And most importantly, I think that Carnegie has presented the community with a true visionary project for the heart of downtown, a transformative project, and it's one that we're very excited about pursuing and looking forward to those negotiations in earnest. Any other discussion or comments from council? Yes, Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Mr. President. I want to compliment you for the work you've done as our representative with the administration on essentially better part of 12 months of work to identify and evaluate potential development partners, which leads us to this resolution proposed tonight. The planning director and his team and the mayor have done also good work, and as a council member who really only got to participate in the last 2 months or so, I do feel briefed, and I've had the opportunity to ask questions and get the information. So I happily support this resolution tonight. A couple reflections. One is I'm increasingly struck with the importance of the public-private partnership. We in the city, of course, are on the public side of the property line, but cities don't thrive and do all the things that we envision a wonderful, bustling community can do without businesses and private property owners doing their part. So at the old hospital site, we have an enormous opportunity. That opportunity won't unfold, won't blossom without a private partner. There are some scenarios under which the city could use that public land for public purpose, but that's not what we've proposed, especially if we're serious about getting economic redevelopment and replacing lost revenues from the painful loss of the hospital, as this project proposes to do. So that's number one. And the good news is we've got a serious and ambitious proposal from just such a private partner. Number two is that tonight we are voting potentially here to get serious and to find out if we can walk down the aisle, as it were, with this partner. And we're not committed to doing that with our vote tonight, but it gives us an opportunity to do that. Another analogy would be if you were the coach of the Cleveland Browns and you had a quarterback, do you dither and maybe play them and maybe not, or do you play them a full season to find out whether you've got a franchise quarterback or not? And if you do the latter, you can find out and then get a new quarterback if you need one next season. So I think it makes very sound sense for us to work with speed and focus to find out whether this partner can be our long-term partner. We're optimistic that they can be, but we've got work to do in front of us, and we have the opportunity to negotiate for the good of the community in the weeks ahead. So happy that we're at this point tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? I always balk a little bit at any comparison to the Cleveland Browns, but hopefully we can get that correct outcome. We've got Mr. Papandreou and Mr. Corey here tonight. Would you two care to make any brief comment or?
First and foremost, I want to thank you very much for your support here this evening, members of council. We are very excited about this opportunity, and I will assure you that your support is not going to go unfounded. We're committed to this project. We see this as a partnership, a long-term partnership, not just one that is evolving for the purpose of doing this project, but for being a part of it for the many, many years to come as owners and managers committed to its success, and frankly, being responsible and owning whatever that ultimate project may evolve to be. And that's something that we think is critical to the success of this project, and we certainly want to toot our horns when it comes to what we believe to be our qualifications and our commitment in that regard. And so I want to thank you again. We're very excited, as I mentioned. We're looking forward to this opportunity to be a part of this community and to really make a contribution to what we think is really a monumental project, one that I think will be a legacy for us all, and we intend to stand by that. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions from council or the administration? Hearing none, we've got a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 29, communication from Planning and Development Director Sylvester regarding fiscal year 2018 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development one-year action plan resolution.
Thank you. Director Sylvester.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear members of council, Lakewood's Citizen Advisory Committee, the CAC, approved its fiscal year 2018 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, allocation recommendations to City Council on November 1st, 2017, based on estimated 2018 CDBG and ESG awards of $1.75 million and $160,000, respectively. On behalf of CAC, I respectfully submit these recommendations summarized in Exhibit A and seek council's consideration on this matter. Mr. Chair, we can forward this to the Finance Committee if council thought that was appropriate.
Thanks. We are, I'm assuming, though, expecting or anticipating an action from council this year, though, correct?
Yes, that would be ideal.
Okay. Thanks. Move to receive and file that communication. A motion's been made and seconded. Any additional discussion from council on receiving and filing the communication? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 30, Resolution 896817, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to submit the fiscal year 2018 one-year action plan of the fiscal year 2015 to 2019 five-year consolidated plan, which includes dollar allocations and activities to be funded with Federal Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Home Investment Partnership Program resources, and incorporates the city's application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for fiscal year 2018 CDBG, ESG, and home funds, and all amendments thereto, and all understandings and assurances contained therein.
Thank you. Move to refer to Finance Committee. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the referral to Finance? Finance Chair Bullock.
Thanks, Mr. President. Happy to receive this ordinance and to include it in our upcoming deliberations. And I'd like to invite via the the planning director, the citizen leadership of the CAC, if they could join us. Please invite them and work through Maureen Bach in the council office to find a time that might work for them. probably either on Saturday the 16th or Monday the 18th, I would think. And if Dan Wyman would like to join us too, it's always welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to refer to finance? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 31, communication from Police Chief Malley regarding Keep Our Parks Safe COPS grant.
Thank you. Chief Malley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Lakewood Division of Police have been notified that our grant with the Ohio Department of Public Safety for our project titled Keep Our Parks Safe has been approved for funding. The Division of Police will receive $29,976.30 to pay for overtime for officers to work in our parks this summer to provide enhanced visibility, response to quality of life complaints, and be a proactive presence with our youth and park visitors. The required match of $9,992.10 is being drawn from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. We also have a collaboration board to administer the grant, which includes the Lakewood Neighborhood Police Officers, the Friends of Kaufman Park, Lakewood Alive, Lakewood Outdoor Basketball Committee, and the City of Lakewood Parks Division. There is a short turnaround on the return of the grant documents, and I request your approval of the resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on receiving and filing the communication? Bless you. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 32, Resolution 896917, a resolution to enter into an agreement to accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety Office of Criminal Justice Services, Ohio Community Police Relations Grant Program for Lakewood's Keep Our Parks Safe in the amount of $29,976.30 and requiring a match by the City of Lakewood in the amount of $9,992.10.
Move to adopt. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt this evening? Thank you, Chief, for bringing this grant forward. Certainly, increased visibility in the parks is something that is beneficial to all parks users, and we're appreciative of the opportunity to have a more robust presence in those parks. Yes, Councilman Anderson.
Thank you. Perhaps the chief can give us a bit of detail, just a couple sentences about where the matching funds are coming from and how that money originated in that particular fund.
Well, the Law Enforcement Trust Fund is derived from forfeitures from criminal suspects that have been found guilty, and generally in common police court, but also in our Lakewood Municipal Court. And those are most generally monies that have been confiscated in result of drug cases, and only upon the result of a criminal case that results in a conviction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions?
Mr. President.
Yes. Councilman Bullock.
I welcome the inclusion of the Lakewood Outdoor Basketball Committee there, since am I inferring correctly that the focus and intention there is to have continued presence of at least part-time adult supervision, or is that actually the patrol presence? Separate thing, okay. That's a programmatic question that I'm interested in, but thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of adoption tonight, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 33, communication from Law Director Butler regarding resolution extending and amending agreement with Cleveland Clinic for policing authority on and around hospital and FHC site.
Thank you. Law Director Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The resolution that follows this communication would permit the city to enter into an amendment to the agreement that was adopted back in 2015, permitting the clinic to use its police force to patrol Lakewood Hospital. This amendment would not only extend the term of that agreement that was adopted back in 2015, but also permit the clinic to, once the operations move across the street to the Family Health Center, also move its jurisdiction across the street. And also, you'll find on page 137 of your docket, the clinic also wants to expand to its Family Health Center on Madison at Woodward as well. So those two sites, the two Family Health Centers essentially. So we would ask, I don't believe there's a great rush. The contract with the clinic does expire at the end of the year. If there's a way that we can have committee review sometime between now and then, that would be ideal. We ask that the resolution be referred to an appropriate committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 34,
I'm sorry. And any abstentions? Thank you.
Item 34, Resolution 897017, a resolution to take effect immediately provided it receives the affirmative vote of at least two-thirds of the members of council or otherwise to take effect and be enforced after the earliest period allowed by law, authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended agreement with the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, which will allow police officers employed by the Cleveland Clinic Police Department to exercise limited police powers within the city of Lakewood on and around hospital property owned or operated by CCF.
Thank you. I would be inclined to move to refer this to public safety or committee of the whole, as council feels appropriate. I guess it's a suggestion of public safety. Without objection, I guess I would move to refer this item to public safety. Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer to public safety? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. I'm sorry. All those, any abstentions? Thank you.
Item 35, communication from Law Director Butler regarding ordinance adding formally chartered ethics provisions to the code following passage of third amended charter.
Thank you. Law Director Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The citizens' adoption of the third amended charter of the city on November 7, 2017 obligates council and the mayor's administration to consider code additions and changes that would ensure continuity in the manner in which the government conducts its affairs. Following this letter is the third in a series of ordinances that, if adopted, would carry forward into the code certain provisions found within the second amended charter, but not made explicit within the third amended charter. These modifications touch on ethics provisions guiding our public employees and officials. As with the previously introduced similar ordinances, which you've considered earlier tonight, please refer this ordinance to the Rules and Ordinances Committee for further consideration.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that report. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion any discussion on receiving and filing that report? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 36, Ordinance 5817, an ordinance enacting Section 14924, activity of officials and employees restricted of the codified ordinances in order to codify certain ethical requirements.
Thank you. Move to refer to Rules and Ordinances. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the referral to Rules and Ordinances? Councilman Litton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Law Director Butler, I'm just curious if there's any others I should expect before we schedule a Rules and Ordinances meeting.
I'm anticipating that there may be, thank you, Mr. Chair, Councilman Litton, I'm anticipating that there will be maybe 4 more.
Oh, okay.
And I suspect that those will be introduced at the beginning of the year.
Oh, okay. So it would be permissible to wait until after the first of the year?
Be perfectly fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion to refer to Rules and Ordinances? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 37, liquor permit application for C1, C2, and D8 stock types to Cap and Cork, 16708 Detroit Avenue.
Thank you. Council's practice is to refer these to the council person in whose ward the establishment is located, and for this particular item, that is Councilman Anderson.
No reason to object. Report in hand.
Thank you. Move to file without objection. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to file without objection? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 38, liquor permit application for C1, C2, D6, and D8 transfers to Constantino's Market, 18120 Sloan Avenue.
Thank you. Again, this particular establishment lies in Councilman Anderson's ward. I hear that we do not have a report at this time. So I would move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. And that brings us to the end of our docket this evening and would take us to public comment. I am to understand that there is no public comment signed up. So we'll move straight to announcements from council and the administration. Council? Councilman O'Malley.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the fire department and the water department in the mayor's office for their response to the water main break that occurred last week underneath the Carlisle in Ward 4. And they worked very, very quickly and efficiently in what was a very unpleasant situation. Particularly the fire department, who carried several dozen cases of water all the way up to the 21st floor, including Chief Gilman personally. Thank you very much. And again, it was just a very quick and efficient response, and I know all the residents there noticed that, and we're very grateful. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements from council? Councilman Anderson.
Yeah, just real quick, as I pull up an email, I wanted to show my appreciation for Lakewood Alive for orchestrating just a tremendous event Saturday, for the Light Up Lakewood. I had the opportunity to be in the fire truck, and little did I know I was going to be there with Little Leaguers. I knew that part, but I didn't know that we were going to have a captive audience with Santa. So I just wanted to show this picture, and so there were 8 little guys, all with Santa in this truck, and Santa couldn't go anywhere. So they had the jolly old St. Nick corner. They asked him a lot of questions, a lot of interviews, and they got some good feedback. So just wanted to thank our friends at Lakewood Alive, as well as Chief Gilman, for allowing us to enjoy their new vehicle, and we're going to hear more about that. But I just wanted to share this photograph. Most of these kids here, the ones with the blue Kansas City hats, they're predominantly immigrants to Lakewood, so they sort of developed their own team, and a couple of my youngsters are in there as well. But what a great evening and a good opportunity to see the parade from Santa's point of view, so I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you again to Lakewood Alive.
Thank you. Other announcements from council? Yes, Councilman Litton.
Just because I noticed we have a decent number anyway of students in the audience. First of all, welcome. We're glad you're here. Second, it may look like we're going through the motions at times and just saying aye to everything that comes before us, but a lot of what we're doing is referring things to committees where we can discuss them in greater detail. So you should know that you're also welcome to join us at any of the many committees that we have. That's where the real magic happens, right? So we'd love to see you there. And myself, and I'm sure many of my other council colleagues would be happy to answer any questions you had after the meeting as well. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Any other announcements from council? Hearing none, we'll turn it over to the administration. No announcements from the administration. Then with no further business or announcements, I move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?